And I want to also, if you're not familiar with Becca, Becca is a new part of our community, and Becca is a singer, musician, and signer, and is also in chaplaincy residency here in Hawaii. So we welcome you, Becca. And so today I'm talking about wake up, clean up, grow up, show up. Now some of this we learned in kindergarten. That, okay, Timmy, you need to wake up in time to go to school. You need to clean up, brush your teeth, wash your face. Did you really? Go back, do it. Grow up, okay, you need to keep track of your pencil, your book. You need to go to class. You need to obey the teacher. Wow, that was a hard one. And show up as my best self. Now, so in some ways, we've known this stuff for a long time. But I want to talk about this in more depth. First of all, wake up. Our mission is for our lives to transform and to assist in the transformation of other people's lives so that we can then go into the world and make a positive difference in the world. It's about waking up. Well, what do you mean, wake up? That would imply that we're asleep. I was asleep for a long, long time. I was thinking, there must be something more to life besides just going through the ritual, going through the schedule, doing this, doing that. But I didn't have any sense that what I was doing was meaningful or that it was making a significant difference in other people's lives or mine. I was sleepwalking. A lot of you, if you don't know, might be at some point earlier in your life conditioned and just sleepwalking in this material world, thinking that this is all there is, but you know that there must be something more. So waking up is waking up out of the illusion that what we see is all there is. Waking up means waking up to this presence, this love, this light, this presence you might call God, you might call Spirit, but this presence that connects and fills and expresses as all of us, waking up to knowing that we are, in fact, the outpicturing of that presence. We are the outpicturing of that presence of God. Waking up out of our slumber, our illusion, thinking that somehow we're less than, that we're not enough, that there's lack, there's limitation, there's separateness, that we need to somehow defend ourselves, we need to fight for what we can get. Waking up from the illusion. And so waking up is an important part of the transformation process. We have classes here. I'm planning on teaching a class this fall on Discover the Power Within You, based on the book by Eric Butterworth, saying that we are the inlet and the outlet of all there is in God, just like a wave. I love to watch the waves. I love to listen to the waves. I love to jump in the waves. And so it helps to be here in Hawaii. I love Kansas, but you don't get as much wave action in Kansas as you do here. And now we're living close to Kailua Beach, so we can walk on that beach or we can swim on that beach when we're not unpacking all of our stuff, which just got delivered this Friday. Yeah. So now we're immersed in these little skyscrapers of boxes in our place, but we're going to sort through that. But a wave has all the components in it of the ocean. It had everything that the ocean is present in that wave, but that wave is an individualized, particularized aspect of that ocean. It contains all that the ocean is, but it's an individualized expression of it. We are all individualized expressions of all there is in God. All there is in God. Because we know that there's only one power and one presence, and that is God. And so each and every one of us, we know, is the outpicturing, the expression of that presence. It can't be any other way. Wow. Do you realize that? Do you? Wow, cool, Tony. Thanks. Give me a high five. Thank you. That all that God is present in, through, and as you. Do you realize that? That means that any situation you face in your life, you are facing it with all the presence there is in God. That means all the imagination, all the understanding, all the creativity that God is expressing as you, and we align with that. We come into coherence with who we really are, and that is the waking up process. We wake up to who we really are. We're not who we think we are. We are that presence of God in action. We are the presence of God in action. Please say that with me. We are the presence of God in action. That means you're no small stuff. And when you wake up to that, suddenly life is different. So, like, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning, I'm walking around in Kailua, and there is a woman there that really seemed quite lost. I don't know if she was on some substances or what exactly was happening in her life. But as I looked at her, I knew that this is the presence of God sitting there. I wasn't sure if she knew that, but I could see that clearly. It was like tears wanted to come to my eyes as I saw this magnificence of God sitting on a rock in the dark, mumbling to herself, but I could see God. And when you wake up to that in yourself, you can see that in others. And we treat each other as such. And so this is my definition of love. That love is the presence of God recognizing itself and treating as such. That is love. Seeing that presence of God. That is waking up. That is the transformation process. So what is cleaning up? You know, there are gurus all over the place, and there's gurus all over India, and I love India, and I've gone on 2 extended pilgrimages there and look forward to going again. And there's all kinds of gurus looking for disciples, looking for students. I am thinking of a particular meeting that occurred in India where there was a big convention of lots of gurus and lots of disciples, and there was only one microphone. And a fight ensued as the gurus were fighting to see which one of them could speak on the microphone. Now, no doubt these gurus had had an awakening kind of experience, and they have something important to offer. But it's not enough to wake up. It's also important to clean up our act. And that means not being in denial, facing our denial about our shadow side. That each and every one of us has a shadow side. Those of you who are watching online, you might be thinking about this along with all of us who are here about what is my shadow side. It might be thinking that I'm not enough. It might be thinking that the world is against me. It might be thinking that, I don't know, that the world is a bad place or that I am somehow intrinsically broken. Whatever that shadow side might be for you, it's important to not be in denial about it, to embrace it. That's part of the cleaning up process, to not be in denial, to not be defensive about it. Think about when you get defensive about something. Typically for me, if I'm defensive about something, it's when something is being identified that has its root or truth in my shadow side. And I don't like looking at it. And so I get defensive and I try to justify how I'm acting or how I'm behaving or how I'm talking or what I'm thinking about. And wow, I am good at coming up with justifications. Does anyone else relate to this? We can justify what we're thinking, how we're acting, we know. So, cleaning up means acknowledging, not being in denial, our shadow side. Not being defensive about it, but embracing it, knowing it. And then, we are not in denial about it, we're not defensive about it, so we deal with it. We deal with our shadow side. We face it. It's like, yeah, I can see that. And furthermore, I can see where that comes from, Certain things trigger me. Do you ever get triggered? Do you? Do you get triggered sometimes? Sometimes and I'm always cautious about telling people what my triggers are because someone might go, I might use that in the future. Anyway, so one of my triggers is like if someone just totally dismisses me and ignores me. It's a thing. Part of it was being the youngest in my family and feeling like, no matter what I said, it's like sometimes being ignored and like what I had to say or think was not always valued. And maybe you can relate to some of that. And so when I get ignored, there's something that rises up in me like, oh no, you're not going to ignore me. I might be a pain in your rear, but you will not ignore me, And so those defensive mechanisms came up because of these things that we need to deal with. These triggers show us our shadow side. So repeat after me. I am grateful for my triggers. I am grateful for my triggers. Because they show me my shadow side. Could you say that with enthusiasm, or was that a little difficult? Like I'm thankful for my triggers? But yeah, because our triggers show us the stuff that we need to deal with, right? And now some people say, I don't want to deal with it. Enough already. It's enough just to get up in the morning and show up, Why do I want to deal with my triggers? I just want to project my stuff on other people through the day. It works for me. I want to project my own shadow stuff. I want to, just put it out on other people. And so you are the problem. You are the one at fault. You are the one who is ignorant. It can't possibly be me. And so we project this stuff on the other people. Yeah? Do you ever do that? The stuff that irritates us the most about other people is the stuff that is our own shadow side. That is unexamined, typically, and that we're not dealing with. So when I'm really, really irritated about something in another person, it's typically my own stuff that I'm projecting onto them. Now, yeah, they may be doing something that is triggering that. Yeah, they are accountable for their actions. They need to be held accountable for their actions. But what I'm talking about here is that the cleaning up process is dealing with that shadow material. Now, there's a number of ways throughout history of dealing with the shadow side. Ho'oponopono is a process of dealing with the shadow side. Some people here in Hawaii will gather for an entire evening and talk through it and speak their truth. I now have in my office, thank you, Alethea, up in my office and in the table back here in the meeting room, we have a bell. Ding. So when we need to speak our truth, we ring our bell. It's a sign that, okay, listen up, I'm going to speak my truth, right? And all of us need to listen to one another if we are to really clean up, right? And so Ho'oponopono is a process where we sit with each other, we listen, we really speak our truth. Instead of getting defensive, we really listen. Another great process that's been developed within Unity by Drs. Gary and Jane Simmons and Rima Bonario is the quantum living process. For me, I found it tremendously helpful. Now, it's a tool, but I found it extremely helpful because what one does in this process is to identify what one's shadow side is. Now, it's not for me to go, okay, Ogalucia, I've identified your shadow stuff, and I want to take careful inventory of all the things you need to address. How do you think that would go? Wouldn't go so well. And so, but it's important for us to do our own work, to do this. And so we identify what those triggers are, that shadow material is. Then we look at, where did this come from? What's feeding this particular trigger? And then we deal with it by affirming and knowing, I am the presence of God. I am the one. We identify who we have come here to be. That I'm not here to be that fearful, scared child. I can embrace that fearful, scared child that I was. And that is definitely a part of me. But I can embrace who I'm here to be. That I am here to be a magnificent presence of transformation. I am here to be a presence here in Unity Church of Hawaii, on the islands and beyond, to be the presence of God to assist people in transformation. And so whatever your mission statement is, but the quantum living process can help you to identify who you are here to be. That is a great process. So I really want to affirm that. So that's the cleaning up process. The growing up process is really learning to listen to people who have a different view than I do. I don't know, how many of you have heard of emotional intelligence? Okay, quite a few of you. How many of you here have heard of spiritual intelligence? Okay, they're related. Okay, emotional intelligence is learning to really be present with another person, not feeling like if a person has a different point of view that somehow you're going to have to give up your point of view if you listen. But it's learning to be empathetic, it's learning to be connected. Spiritual intelligence takes it to a whole other level. A book that I highly recommend, written by Cindy Wigglesworth. Cindy Wigglesworth. She is the chair of the board at Unity of Houston. And Cindy is this amazing organizational expert and speaker. And she's written this book called SQ21, Spiritual Quotient 21, 21 characteristics of having high spiritual intelligence. That is growing up so that we can really be this presence of God. And so then that is showing up as the presence, showing up in the world. We had this crew of 6 men, and if any of you are watching, I want to thank you. Thank you so much. This crew of 6 men moved our stuff in Friday. They did it with a good attitude. They put on praise music in the house. They were moving to praise music. One of their pastors is the lead of their moving team. And they had communication. When they came, they thought it was going to be a 1-level flat house. when they arrived, they found out it was a tall 2-story house and that they needed to go up 2 flights of stairs. And so they needed to adjust, and they had someone at the truck bringing stuff out. They had someone at the entrance bringing stuff in. They had someone on the stairwell bringing stuff up. They had someone at the top of the stairs bringing it over. They had someone inside arranging it. They had constant communication between one another. They were respecting one another. They were being in this presence of spirit, even though they were doing this very hard physical work. And I thought it was a good embodiment of showing up. Showing up, being Unity Church of Hawaii, means having really, really good communication, working together for the same common mission, doing our own internal work, showing up fully as who we are as the presence of God, bringing forth our gifts as Becca is demonstrating. She contacted me before she showed up, before I showed up, and said, I hear you're coming to Unity Church of Hawaii, so am I. Here are some of the skills that I've used at Unity Church of the Hills in Austin, Texas. Big, wonderful church. And it's like, oh, wow, cool. What gifts do you have? What abilities do you have? What presence of God do you have that's calling to come forth? Last Sunday, John, one of our ushers, where are you, John? Just raise your hand. You're here somewhere. There's John from Eva Beach, all right? So he drives from Eva Beach to be here. And John, listening to the message last week, thought, I want to show up. I want to volunteer. So John became an usher, and this is his first Sunday. Thank you. And there's ways to show up in the community. There's ways to show up in the larger community. What is it that Spirit is asking you to do to show up as the presence? Now, some of you may just want to go golfing or go to the beach, but you can still show up as the presence. You know, when I was at Unity in Marin, Joel, I don't know if you're watching, but Joel is the president of the board of Marin Country Club, the golf course. And man, is it fancy. I've never golfed on such a fancy golf course. I'm not a great golfer, but wow, it was just a privilege to hunt for my ball there, you know. It was so beautiful and pristine and well taken care of. And Joel, who was part of the church there, is part of the church there, had invited me, and I didn't know at the time that he was president of the country club. And so everyone's saying hi to Joel, and Joel's talking with everybody, and he's being this presence of God on the golf course, right? Now, there's other people I've golfed with that you can hear the and that's the golf club flying, and you just got to avoid the... Wherever you are, you can be the presence. You can choose to be the full presence of God. Remember in Matthew chapter 5 that Jesus said, you are the light of the world. Don't hide your light under a bushel basket, but bring it out where all people may see your light and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Don't hide your stuff. We are more because you are here. Don't hide the presence of God that you are. Show up. Be that presence in everyday life. And the way we do it is by engaging in this transformation process of waking up, cleaning up, growing up, and showing up. That is what we are here to do. We're here to show up as the presence of God here in Hawaii and beyond. I know there's people watching us in other countries, other states, and we are so grateful you are with us. So I invite you as well to wake up, clean up, grow up, and show up. And I invite you just to take a deep breath. So we go into a time of meditation. We allow who and what we are, to be the presence of God, to be the presence of God in action. I invite you to repeat after me. I am the presence of God in action. I wake up. I clean up. I grow up and I show up. You've got it. You've got this. And Spirit, we know that where we are, we've got this. We've got this presence of God living in, through, and as us. Oh, we breathe into that. Just breathe into that presence that you are. Breathe into that transformation. Oh, just know that presence as yourself. As we go into a minute of silent meditation. We are this presence. We are this presence. Repeat that with me. We are this presence. And so we go from here to wake up, to clean up, to grow up, to show up, knowing we are the presence. And so it is. Amen.